Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from Aaron Kelly, who says, I was wondering if you had any plans to discuss the common misconception about techniques that do work, but only proactively. That's not right, hold on. There are some techniques which my master taught me, which only work if you do them exactly when you are supposed to. They don't work if the attacker already has a hold of you. Reversing a wrist lock, or breaking a half or full Nelson, or slipping a full mount, rear mount, etc. None of the techniques that quote-unquote self-defense classes teach work if you are already in that position. You are not supposed to do these techniques in response to someone grabbing you or striking you. So I guess what I'm asking is, are there any techniques that self-defense classes teach that you can see how they could be useful if done properly? Okay, I see what you mean. For a related video, one I made probably about 4 years ago that nobody watched. What was that one called? Man, I don't even remember what it was called. But I made a video about this subject, when it's too late to escape, something like that. I was getting a few questions about, Ramsey, how do I escape from an armbar when my arm is already fully extended? I am pinned and my arm is hyperextending, and the answer is you tap out, because at that point it's already too late. Ramsey, how do I escape a rear naked choke when the choke is already sunk in and I am blacking out and he has it locked on? At that point it's already too late. So I see what you mean about proactive self-defense techniques. If you wait for the guy to sink his hooks in so deep that nothing short of a superhuman effort is going to get you out of there, then yeah, it's too late. So sure, there are techniques like that where you can react or act in a, what's the word I'm looking for? Proactive isn't the right word. What is the right word? Where you do something before it needs to be done. In a preventative way. There we go. Where you do something in a preventative way. For example, if there's a fist traveling toward your face, when the fist gets here, it's a little too late to do something about it, right? So we perhaps want to move our head out of the way so that fist doesn't hit us in the mouth, right? Are we on the same page yet? Now, your question reminded me a lot of some comments I've been getting lately, because one of my older videos titled, it's episode number 10 in the MMA Fighters Try Women's Self-Defense Techniques series. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. Maybe I'll put a link somewhere here or after the video or in the comments or in the description. We'll see. But in this series, I find really bad, very questionable women's self-defense techniques and try them out, but against mild resistance. That's it, just mild resistance. Not crazy MMA professional level technique, just mild resistance. For example, somebody grabs your wrist and they show, do this hippy dippy thing to get out of that wrist lock. And in their demos, in their videos, it always works because they just let go. They cooperate 100%. But what if the guy doesn't let go? And what if your technique does not follow sound principles of good body mechanics? Then it's not going to work. If they don't want to let go, they won't in that situation. Okay. So episode number 10 got these very interesting comments. Particularly this comment saying, dude, you're doing it wrong. You're supposed to move your body, not just your arm. When the whole point of the video was to point out that this woman instructing this wrist grab escape was not moving her body, but rather just moving her arm. And the only difference between what she was doing and what I was doing was my training partner was not cooperating. Now, the problem there, as opposed to many of these other women's self-defense techniques, is that this wrist grab escape looked mechanically similar to wrist grab escapes taught in various martial arts systems. So all these folks left comments like, oh, my Krav Maga coach told me that this totally works. Because they're seeing a facsimile of a real thing. They're seeing somebody put their hands in a similar position to perhaps a legitimate wrist lock or something like that, but doing everything wrong. Let's take, for example, there's a technique, a double wrist lock, as it's called in catch wrestling, or a figure four wrist lock, or a figure four wrist hold. You'll use this in catch wrestling, in jiu-jitsu, in most grappling arts. To reinforce this hold, you'll use it in positions such as a kimura, a Americana, a key lock. You'll use it in a quarter Nelson. You'll use it in a lot of different techniques to control an opponent. Now, if you hold your hand up here instead of right here, it looks very similar, but it's a shallow facsimile of the real technique. This is the real technique. This will work under pressure. This will not. And it's a matter of a few centimeters. And so the subtleties are often lost on the casuals, if you will. And so if I were to teach you let's say, there's a throw I really like, using a quarter Nelson from a standing position. You can also do this on the ground to get a reversal, set up a darce choke really nicely. But if my hand is right here, and I'm fighting a competent athlete with a reasonable amount of strength, and a reasonable initiative to wrestle for top position, it's not going to work. It simply won't. It can't. But if I adjust my hand to the correct position, now we've got a fighting chance of making that technique work really, really well. But again, a casual might not understand the difference between this and this, let alone recognize that if you are doing a technique with your hands, we also have to bring the legs along for the ride, because that is our base. Something as simple as a punch. When we see punches, we tend to focus on the fists. Oh, look at those arms move. Forgetting that the real power, the real drive behind a punch comes from the legs, comes from the feet, comes from the motion of the body, comes from the hips, comes from everything except for the striking point itself. But let's talk about being proactive or preactive, we should say. Now, there are ways to escape from a mount position. If somebody is on you tight, if somebody's got their hooks in from back mount, yes, you can get out of there. Go take a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. They'll teach you that stuff. And you will drill that stuff to death. So if you are caught in a bad position, you can get out. And it's not the end of the world. Now, as far as these preactive techniques, like, okay, if somebody's trying to take your back, change your position before they get your back. Okay, great, we can get behind that. And Aaron, what you're saying is a problem arises when people teach a preactive technique as if it were that's not even a word in the English language, is it? Preactive? A preemptive, that's the word I'm looking for. A preemptive technique. There we go, problem solved. Linguistic dilemma averted. When people teach a preemptive technique as if it were the way to solve the problem that has already happened, trying to use the ounce of prevention after the fact, after the disease has already taken root, that simply doesn't work. No. So yes, I have made videos about this. Older videos that nobody watched. Go check them out. I've been on YouTube for a while now. Like 14 years, so Go check him out, guys. Thanks for the question. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments down below or email me at ramseydewey@gmail.com. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.